Hello, welcome to Restore 2022. Today we're reading 1 Kings chapters 5 and 6. It had been King David's dream to build a temple to the glory of God in Jerusalem, but although God was pleased with the concept, he wouldn't allow David to be the builder because he had blood on his hands. The Lord chose Solomon to do it instead. And so it was Solomon's primary concern when he succeeded to the throne. Here, in chapters 5 and 6, we read first of the preparations for the project and then a description of the building work itself. For the temple to glorify God, it needed the finest materials and workmanship. So when Hiram, king of Tyre, sent an ambassador to Jerusalem to cement an entente cordiale between the two nations, Solomon immediately took advantage of it. He agreed a mutually beneficial trade deal with the king. Tyre, you see, was built on an island half a mile from the Phoenician coast. It prospered and grew rich from its control of naval commerce throughout the Mediterranean. But the island had very little farmland, so Solomon agreed to provide food products to Tyre in exchange for building materials for the temple. Then he organised a huge workforce. He conscripted 30,000 men to forced labour who, judging by 1 Kings chapter 9, were all foreign workers. They travelled in shifts between Lebanon and Israel, and at Solomon's expense joined Hiram's men in logging and shipment. Another huge labour force of Israelites was employed as burden bearers and stone cutters. Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders worked together, and there's also mention of some men of Gebal, also known as Byblos, who worked alongside them. Gebal, or Byblos, was a Phoenician town more or less dependent economically on Tyre, and so its men were drafted into the project. Chapter 6 describes the building project itself and states that it began 480 years after Israel's emancipation from Egypt. This poses academic problems for those who want to put a firm date to the Exodus, but I'll just pass over them. The temple was constructed with the finest materials: dressed stone, jupiter, cypress, cedar, and it was lavish with hammered gold. Premium craftsmanship went into the design and wood carving and ornamentation. The finished building was 90 feet long, 30 wide and 45 foot high, not including a structure on 3 levels built around the temple walls. And the overall design imitated the layout of the wilderness tent of meeting. The vestibule, nave and inner sanctuary corresponded with the tabernacles, outer court, holy place and most holy place. Reading the chapter is fairly self-explanatory, but it will certainly help if you read it with a picture of the temple layout open in front of you. The construction was completed in 7 years. Perhaps the most important verses in today's reading are chapter 6, verses 12 and 13. They are clear. Even though the temple is being constructed at God's bidding, He's not going to be impressed by its grandeur and gold layer opulence or architectural excellence. The excellence He's looking for is the obedience of the king who worships in it. As a hymn writer has expressed it, God desired the gold of obedience and incense of holiness.